Hello, um, my name is SuperXavier. I've been a VR chat creator now for almost 5 years, and I'm here to talk about the algorithm mostly, but also towards the end, I'm going to talk about team building and my experience with it, any tips and tricks I have on it. So the first thing I do want to start off with, besides the algorithm, is something really small. On a side note, is using prefabs and other tools to help make content. So if you're going for like really cool shots or cinematics, one thing I really like is VRC Lens. VRC Lens has been absolutely incredible at capturing in-depth cinematic style videos. But to add more to it, I can also use camera animations as well to basically illustrate the shot a lot more smoothly. So for instance, you can see the lines here, and I can guide them a certain way. So if I hit play, you can see here that it begins to move accordingly. So if you're shooting like a shot and you really want that drone style footage or something to capture a really dynamic shot, it really helps, and it makes it super easy to use. You can also change the speed for it. You can do things like have it orbit, for example. So if I wanted it to orbit, I can also set that up as well. And how you can see, it begins to orbit and everything. So if you want like really cool shots, highly recommend camera animations. I believe, if I'm correct, it should be a HPP def. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but they made this preset in the VRC Lens. Those are two things I use a lot recently, and I'm super glad I did. Absolutely amazing pieces of prefabs and everything. So that is what I want to get started with. Now, I want to get started off with the algorithm and talk about different platforms, my experience. So at the moment, I've been doing TikTok it's where I started. I've been doing that for almost 5 years now, since December 30th. New Year's Eve. That was when I first started in 2019. So literally like the last day of 2019. I've been doing YouTube with the VR chat style content since around, I'd say September is when I really started to have my try at it. September 2020. And then I started Facebook around sometime in 2021. And then I did Instagram back also in 2020 as well. And I've also done Snapchat. So I do have a lot of things I want to share about each platform and other stuff. So one thing I do want to talk about is something on a more serious subject is there is a slight chance that we may not have TikTok in a specific country sometime early next year. If that does happen, the question is what happens? You know, what's the platform to focus on? And the answer really is all of them, but I'm going to go into details. So the first one I want to start about is Instagram. Instagram is where a lot of people who make TikTok specifically tend to also post their content and see a lot of community growing on there. It's a really amazing community that I've seen on Instagram. I would say of all the platforms I've experienced, Instagram has the most concurrent audience in terms of like they show up a lot. They're really excited to see what you're posting, and they keep up with a lot of the more niche down posts. So if you're posting like an update or something, it will tend to be something that people are more interested in on Instagram than, for instance, on TikTok. TikTok is more, they more look for certain things like series, a good way to grow on all the platforms, and I'll get to that in a second. Series is a very diverse thing on TikTok because it keeps people wanting to know more about TikTok, your TikTok content, because they'll scroll through a For You page, they'll see a series, and they'll be like, hey, I want to know how this continues. And it's not really a to be continued style series. It's more you tell a story, you end the story, but you also leave questions. And those questions will stay with people for quite some time, and they'll come back and see more. That's one common style that really has helped me out a lot on TikTok and many other platforms. I'll get into that. Facebook has been the most difficult platform for me to expand on. I actually had to get a mentor on Facebook, and I will talk about my experience with that. So when I was on Facebook, I did Facebook for around 3 years, and I posted, I think it was about 500 pieces of content on there, and I was still struggling. And eventually I was like, okay, I need to find a mentor that knows about this, because this platform is really complicated for me to figure out. It has a lot of things that I don't know about. And I went looking. I just went searching, and eventually I finally did find someone who's like, hey, I post on Facebook and I would like to also, teach you the ropes and stuff. So he taught me the ropes, and I still didn't get it. So then I went to their mentor, because it turns out they had a mentor. So I went to their mentor, and then he told me extra stuff. He's like, hey, Facebook right now, they change things a lot, and they want normal style long form content. They don't want their reels at the moment. So we pushed for optimizing for more video length footage instead of shorts, which is videos that are over a minute long. And the rest is history on there. And since then, I managed to get monetized on Facebook. So I'll talk about the monetization aspect of everything, because I am monetized on multiple platforms. I feel that a lot of people would like to work on their content, but they also have restrictions. Maybe they have rents due. They got to focus on their job a lot more because they are unable to progress and stuff. Or maybe they want a project, but the ambition is going to cost resources, and those resources are going to cost money, and they don't have those resources or money. And I'll talk about my own opinion on what the best platform is to focus on for team building, monetary things, and other things. Because at the end of the day, those are usually, when I talk to a lot of people, a lot of the issues that they do face. And some of the results are quite shocking, and I'll go into some of those details. So I do want to talk about YouTube as well. I've been on YouTube since September 2020. And it's the main platform I focus on. And the community there has been absolutely amazing. I really enjoy my time there. But one thing I do want to focus on is the shorts aspect of it. And I'll give some tips on that. So for shorts on YouTube, it's a great starter for making content, because you get to make 30-second or under, maybe like 59-second or under content, and it helps you expand a lot more on testing out what works for you and what makes you work on your content. But one thing I do want to solidify to a lot of people is, I've talked to a lot of creators, and the one thing I ask them a lot is, this content's great that you're posting sometimes, but does it make you happy? Make sure you make content that is actually making you happy. A lot of times I've seen people that are not really satisfied with what they're posting, or they have doubts about it, and that's a natural process. I've posted videos before where I'm like, I don't know about this one, but I'm gonna post it because I'm just unsure, and maybe my audience will feel differently about it. To quell those doubts, studying the algorithm is extremely important, and the reason why is I study vidIQ a lot. That's where I get a lot of my information from, and I watch podcasts of creators talking about their experience with the algorithm and giving tips and tricks. And what I do is, I don't copy what they're making. Instead, I look at the tips and tricks, and I see, okay, this is my style. How can I use these tips and tricks to take my style that I want to do and make it and communicate it better with the audience? Because it's not about satisfying the algorithm. It's about satisfying your audience and understanding your audience. Criticism is going to be a very common thing that comes up in content creation, and also very much in team building. I will go into that also later. So when it comes to criticism, you got to be very open-minded. You got to be willing to change a lot of things. You got to be willing to never get comfortable, because it's always adapting. Memes only, if you're a meme maker, I like to make a lot of memes, but memes only have a lifespan of like sometimes 2 weeks and stuff. Or there's sometimes a meme comes out, you got like 2 weeks to really add your own spin to it or add your own style to it before it goes down. On TikTok specifically. On YouTube, memes have a lifespan of about 2 months. So YouTube's a lot more forgiving with their meme lifespan, from at least my own experience of the like fastest memes that come and go. And everything. So that's a really important aspect, is timing. Another important aspect is communicating with yourself, understanding your limits and everything. There's a lot that goes into content creation. Some parts we're amazing at, some parts we struggle at. when I got started, I did the editing, the script writing, the recording, the directing. I gathered everyone. There was multiple steps, and of those 5 steps that I went through, there were times where a burnout could happen on one of the steps. Maybe I got burnt out from the editing, and I was like, I don't want to edit this video right here because my editing style is I like to learn new things while I'm editing. But if it's a video that I already know exactly how to edit it, I don't enjoy it as much. And burnout can happen in these aspects. So it's very important to also study burnout and look at how other creators handle that and handle other aspects. Another thing is, do I ever feel like pressure from this being my job and everything? I do not actually. And the reason why is because I studied the algorithm. I know how to communicate very well with my audience where I can post something and know how it's going to perform in advance a lot of the time. And that takes up a lot of the stress. I'm telling you, studying the algorithm versus not studying it, two very different things. If you don't study it, it may be confusing. You may not know if something's going to do well, and it may give you that pressure of I need to do better, and then the overthinking kicks in, and then the burnout kicks in shortly after. That can happen quite a lot of times. Another thing that I do is when I'm getting ready to like do anything, I usually like to schedule my recordings. That way, when that time hits, I go do it. And the reason why is if I am like, oh, I need to record this video, and I just don't schedule it, it ends up just not happening. And then I'll feel bad the next day, and then I'll be like, oh man, I'm not doing so great here. And then I'll be too hard on myself, and then that cycle comes in, and then the burnout comes in from there. So that's another thing that I used by studying other creators who have talked about their burnout. And granted, videos like that are hard to find. It's hard to find videos where creators do talk about that. But it's good to also talk with any peers that you know. If you know any people that make content, ask them about their thoughts or anything. Or if there's something that is their strong point, but you see maybe your weak point, ask them about it and be like, hey, how do you do this? Or how do you deal with this? Or how do you handle this? Maybe their strong point is they love editing and they just keep going at it. But when you're editing, you find yourself struggling on some of your edits. So in terms of the algorithm, I'll get to that part now. When it comes to the algorithm on YouTube, posting shorts is going to be a very big thing that's coming in consistently all the time. Shorts has been blowing up on YouTube consistently. I've been seeing the live data charts that I have seen, and it's absolutely incredible what's happening on shorts. It just keeps going and going and going. And one important factor, I'll show you how do you know that short is a good short, and I'll explain multi-platforming and also some examples of it. So one example of posting a short is if you post it through desktop, you actually notice that people have like this thumbnail in their shorts, and it's from the video, so you can have that. If you post it through desktop, it'll just automatically pick for you a thumbnail. And if you, like, let's say you make a video about, I'll give you an example, Gojo and Makima, but the title is like Gojo has had enough. But then YouTube decides to pick Makima has a thumbnail. People are going to read the title in the shorts feed and see that. And how YouTube likes to test a lot of shorts is they put it in the initial shorts feed, which is when you scroll down, you see like a bunch of shorts. That's very important. And that's when they can see the title. It's not like TikTok where that doesn't matter and the title isn't affected anywhere as heavily. But on YouTube, it matters a lot. And when you're titling something, you want to be very clear, concise, and to the point. Keep it under 40 characters. If you have it over 40 characters, it cuts out the title and the viewer can no longer see that. So if anyone wants to know anything to write down, 40 characters maximum for a short, but make sure the title is something where you could tell someone the title, and they can, if they had to draw you the image, it would be the image that you picked for that short. Now let's talk about how to pick an image for a short. Let me sit down my chair real quick. So to pick an image for a short, you can easily just go through mobile. So if you upload your short through mobile, you can actually pick the image for that short. That is extremely important. All my shorts are uploaded through mobile all the time for that reason, because picking that title, the thumbnail, and having those match communicates extremely well with the audience. And a lot of creators don't know about that. And I'll talk about that in short of how to translate your content across multiple platforms, because there are different ways. The best way I could say to people is you have to think about your video as a present that you're giving to your audience each time you post. You're giving them a gift and hoping that they accept it. But it has to be packaged for each different person. You have 5 friends, one likes it packaged a certain way, another one likes it packaged a certain way. One likes it very similar to the other person, and I'll talk about that. YouTube is very, very, very based on packaging. It has to be packaged correctly, and it could be the difference between night and day of how it performs. That's how you can have videos that have certain stats, and I'll talk about the stats. So there's a thing called swipe through rate on YouTube. If you go to your stats and click on reach and scroll down, you'll see something called swipe through rate on your YouTube Shorts. What is swipe through rate? What does it mean? And what do you do with it? And what's a good swipe through rate? Swipe through rate basically means if someone's swiping through the feed, not like selecting your short initially off of the initial feed, they're just swiping through the feed. If they watch your video for 3 to 5 seconds and then scroll off, that counts as them swiping away. If they stay for 5 seconds or above, sometimes 3 seconds or above, they can end, it counts as a swipe, or it has a non-swipe. It counts as them watching. A good swipe through rate to have, if you're newer to all of this, is the main thing that every creator aims for that I've talked to is always 70%. And it doesn't mean it has to be at 70%, but that should be the goal, is 70%. If you're not reaching 70% swipe through rate, you have to check other things. Maybe the watch time. If the watch time isn't high, and I'll talk about what high watch time is and go into all that things in a second. So what is good watch time and what is bad watch time? If you post a 10-second short, you would want about 150% watch time. That sounds like a lot, but YouTube, they are very used to watching long-form content. They're used to watching videos that are 10 to 20 minutes long, so they're very used to watching shorts for a longer period of time. For example, I posted a video that was 59 seconds on YouTube Shorts, and it had a 85% watch time. On TikTok, it had a 35% watch time. TikTok average is about 30% sometimes for minute-long stuff. And I'll talk about how do you know what a good performing TikTok is as well in a minute. And I'll also talk about what my experience on Instagram as well. So when it comes to YouTube Shorts and everything, which I do want to go ahead and give a little spoiler, YouTube is, in my opinion, the most important platform to focus on as a creator to build things out. And I'll get into that in a second. So if you have a 10-second video, 150% watch time is usually what you want to strive for with a 70% watch rate. If you're not getting that, you usually have to review the video. Like, okay, what did I do in the first 3 seconds? And sometimes if you review your video, you'll notice that maybe they swiped out like 48% of them, and you only have a 40% swipe through rate. So you're missing that extra 30% you need. You should review the first 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds of the video and say, did I get the title and the thumbnail communicate to the audience quick enough? It's not about making everything flashy and doing all these cuts within the first 10 seconds. It's about making sure that you are delivering what the title and the thumbnail is within that time. If you only, like for instance, if I made a video called Goku takes over a city, and the first 30 seconds of that short is people conversing and funny moments happening between them, but then after that 30-second mark, Goku finally appears and takes over the city, a lot of people are going to click off because they click there because they're like, okay, Goku takes over a city. So it does the opposite. It's not going to do the effect usually of, okay, since I put him in later, people are going to wait those 30 seconds. No, time is a valuable thing for a lot of these people that watch social media in terms of what they want to watch, and they're very quick to swipe on things. So you want to deliver the title very quickly within, at least, in my own opinion, the first 5 seconds. Do I always do that? No, because that's very meticulous, but I am saying that these are my experiences on how I maintain a lot of the audience that I do currently have on YouTube, and YouTube has been the most consistent in terms of my audience and everything. Second most consistent. The next thing I want to talk about is TikTok and what they look for. On TikTok, they do have a creator program now. And in that creator program, you need about 10,000 followers. But once you get in that program, you post videos that are a minute long. And how it works is it has things called qualified views. What is a qualified view? Well, it's the same as a YouTube swipe through rate. They have to watch for at least 5 seconds and it'll count as a qualified view. On average, let's say you get 10,000 views and it's a minute long. On average, about 50% of those will be qualified views. So you have about 5,000 qualified views, but it has to be over a minute long for you to earn any type of monetization from it. The reason I'm more focused on monetization at the end of the day is a lot of creators since my last event I hosted have talked to me about they want to do this as a job. So I'm going to talk from the perspective of that a bit more in depth this time. So on TikTok, by posting videos that are over a minute long, it can be difficult. You really want to make a series with it because it's easier doing a series, like I said, because it keeps them coming back. And I've done a series before, and if anyone goes to my TikTok, they can see like the what if series. They'll notice there's this what if series, and they'll see like, okay, he was posting this very consistently here, but when he stopped, things changed. Because on TikTok, it's very fast paced. You can have one video do super well, but it doesn't mean your next video is going to do well, unlike other platforms. So TikTok has the least concurrent audience. It's because it's very heavily For You page based. I've talked to a lot of people and I'm like, hey, do you ever check your following tab? Like I do, but I follow like 1,000 people. I'm like, if you follow 1,000 people, you're probably not going to see some of those people every single day in your feed. So most people get their feed from the For You page, which TikTok decides what you're going to see. So that's why TikTok pushes out certain videos. So you'll see certain creators that will have a video do super well and everything. So I'll talk about the next hardest part as well in a second here, but I'm going to move to Instagram. So on Instagram, a lot of creators I've seen on TikTok are posting on Instagram. And the reason why it's working really well versus YouTube is I have seen some of their YouTubes and everything. And I've talked to them about it. And the reason why is Instagram really, really does enjoy content that's about 9 to 15 seconds long. It's a lot shorter form, and that's what Instagram currently likes in some aspect. Doesn't mean it's what it works. There are people who post minute-long content on there, and everything it does really well. But in terms of the base amount of what's I've commonly seen is the shorter videos are not only quicker to make, so they can make more of them. Instagram also favors them a lot more in certain aspects, from my own experience, and that's why it can translate well from TikTok to Instagram. And a lot of TikTok users are very used to going to Instagram and migrating over there. I'll give you an example. When I was growing on TikTok, I had grown my first account to 250,000, and then I made a second account and I grew it to 700,000. And the question is, how many of those people migrated to other platforms, and why did they do that? So on YouTube, they migrated. I had 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, but by the time I hit 700,000 on my second TikTok account, and my YouTube was always there, front view, I gained 1,000 subscribers to my YouTube from TikTok. So of the 700,000 people, or if you combine both accounts, of them almost 1 million people, 1,000 of them went to YouTube. This is why it's going to be a little bit difficult going into some of the next parts. But on Instagram, I went from like 0 to 5,000. Instagram was just a better migrated, more commonly known thing at the time, because the short videos I was posting on TikTok were working super well on Instagram, but on YouTube, they just were not working well until YouTube really optimized their shorts better. And I started studying the algorithm to learn that YouTube just didn't migrate better because I wasn't packaging it correctly. So Instagram packaging is very similar to TikTok, where you can just post. It's not really about the title as heavily. It's the thumbnail, not as much, but you can, of course, pick the thumbnail, which I recommend. Pick the thumbnail on Instagram. And YouTube is all about packaging. You could post content that can do amazing, get amazing watch time, but unfortunately, it may not perform so well because it's not packaged correct, and the swipe through rate is a 40%, even though the watch time could be like an 80 or 100%. Now, I want to go back to watch times. I didn't emphasize enough on it on YouTube, what good watch time is. And also on TikTok, I need to emphasize what I believe good watch time is for my own testing results. On YouTube, like I had mentioned, 10 seconds is 150% with a 70% swipe through rate. That's really good on YouTube. And if you make videos that are 20 seconds, about 120% watch time, phenomenal. Really good to have if you're in the 20-second mark with a 70% swipe through. It's always going to be a 70% swipe through rate, by the way. Very consistent thing to note. Another thing is if it's over 30 seconds, about a 95% watch time is really good for 30 seconds. 40 seconds, a 90% watch time. 50 seconds and above, it's around at 85% watch time is absolutely phenomenal. Those are really hard to hit watch times, but for my own comment analytics, and I've talked to other creators about it, that's the most consistent thing that we've noticed across each time on YouTube. Now, another thing is, well, what if you have a video that has these analytics, but it just doesn't do well? Well, that's the part of the algorithm in your audience. If you post something that doesn't communicate well with your audience, but it's phenomenal, it may not have its day at that time. I've had a point where I did post a video that had 100% watch time. It was 40 seconds with a 72 swipe through rate, and it had 10 times less views than my other content. And that can be for different variations. Maybe it didn't communicate with the audience well or other things. It's very rare phenomenon, by the way. That happens like, I've only caught it like, I think maybe like 5 times where that has happened. But that is something that can happen. So just because you have those statistics does not mean you're guaranteed it, because you want to keep those statistics consistent. To keep them consistent, studying the algorithm, translating your audience. Now let's talk about producing content. I recently had a video, I wish I had a video example, where I saw the post of who broke it. It was from The Office, and it was about the mastering question of who broke it and everything. So what I did was I wrote down that script and I looked at it and I did timestamps on it. I was like, okay, how can I add my own style to it? So what I did was I just used the audio. This was like, I think 2 years ago. I used the audio and I acted over it, and it got 500,000 views. And I was like, awesome, that is cool. And I noticed that other people kept using that audio and getting like 1 million and stuff. So I was like, hey, let me rewrite it. So I rewrote it. In the first 20 seconds, I just replaced what I think Goku or Naruto or Luffy would say in those things, and I replaced the lines, and I'll explain this process and how it really, really taught me a lot of things. It really helped me with my pacing, because I started getting into script writing and making original content, because eventually TikTok came out and said, hey, we want original content instead of lip syncing at the moment for when they messaged me about that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start making it. But I really struggled because I didn't know how to structure the video. So I used, the way I saw it was like a math formula. The math formula was that video script, and I needed to take my own formula and add it to it to amplify it. So what I did was I added, Goku. So instead of Goku, when Goku was in there, instead of saying who broke it, he said who defeated him. And the script was about Goku trying to find out who defeated Trunks. And I added some cool stuff in it, like Trunks being in Yamcha. It was Yamcha. And Yamcha was in like the iconic pose that he's known for on the ground and stuff. Really wish I should have put a video example for this, but I hope it could be followed along just as well. And after I rewrote it, once I got about 15 seconds in, I was like, this is cool. I really like this, but I want to add my own twist to it. So I started having Naruto and Luffy argue about Fortnite, because I just really liked Fortnite. So I added that in and took my own path, but I focused on understanding their pacing and everything by adding my own twist to it. And by the time I got done with it, the script was similar for the first 15 seconds, but it was very different afterwards. And I posted the video, and I named it Goku Tries to Find Out Who's the Strongest, and it was the part 1 of the series. That video went on to not only get more views than the original. I think the original had 3.2 million. It ended up getting 8.5 million, because the rewrite I made turned out to translate really well, not only with my audience who really likes anime, it translated well with a lot of other people. And then I used that experience to write part 2. And part 2 I didn't take any inspiration from anything on part 2. I just continued where I left off and tried to figure it out myself, because I used that formula of pacing to understand it better. And that basically taught me how to become a writer. Because one thing I tell creators is some people are talented at editing, some people are talented at video shots, some people are talented, but to be multi-talented, it takes a lot of instruction, a lot of research, a lot of understanding, and that was how I researched and did all of those things. So let me check what parts I need to go over here. Oh yeah, the monetization. I'll get to that soon. With monetization, I will talk about my experience. I am currently monetized on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and also recently, as of 6 months ago or 5 months ago, Facebook. With monetization, if I had to give recommendations, I cannot release numbers, but I know how much each of these platforms do go about. If you're trying to be a full-time creator, I will talk about the difficulty level of each platform. I'm going to rate it 1 through 10. 1 being the easiest, 10 being I wish you luck, I don't know how. Good luck. TikTok has been a really incredible platform with their monetization recently. They've gotten a lot better at it. A lot of people probably know the old monetization system, but the new monetization system, the only issue is you have to post videos over a minute. And that can be stressful, because making minute-long content takes a lot more resources than making, a 20-second video. And I recommend people who are getting started to make shorter videos because it takes less time and you can really tune out the fine details and ask yourself questions. And I'll go into that actually right now before I go to the next part. Right now, I'm very used to making content that's about 2 to 3 minutes long and everything, but recently we put in a project that was a custom-made 16-minute project, and I bit off a lot more than I could chew. Holy frick, it has been a lot more difficult. I've learned a lot, and I really, in short, I could say I really wish I did 5 minutes, then went up the ladder to 7 minutes, then went up the ladder to 9 minutes, and then went up the ladder by intervals of 2 minutes. I really wish I did that before I tried to take on such a big project, because my standards are very high with a lot of the projects. So the 1 minute and 2 minute ones, I can hold it to higher standards. But the 16-minute one, if there's like a minute there where there's stuff that needs to be fixed, rewriting that and twisting it around to chain it together and make it match with the speed of the video and the direction has been very challenging. And all I can say is I wish I went up the ladder a lot more, and everything. So another thing I do want to talk about is the monetization. Back to that. So on TikTok, the difficulty is the videos you have to be over a minute long, and I don't recommend to shoot immediately for minute-long original content. I recommend to do your research and slowly build your way up there. Start with 20 seconds, go up to 40 seconds, look at the analytics, try to see how to read the analytics by watching channels that can teach you the algorithm. And usually what I do is, when I first started learning the algorithm, I searched up YouTube Shorts algorithm. And back then, the Shorts wasn't even out yet. Actually, Wolvies was the one who told me about YouTube Shorts back in May of 2020. Shorts didn't come out for the US until September. So, oh no, it was March, I think. Yeah, it was March. And I had to learn it. So to learn it, I had to really dig. No channels were teaching about it because it wasn't officially out. It was only out in India. So I went to watch a lot of the videos there because some of them were teaching, but it was not taken seriously over there as much during their beta release. So a lot of the content was really hard to find, and I had to read a lot of the captions for some of them and everything, but that was very difficult to study back then. I was very determined. So once YouTube Shorts did release, I was ready. YouTube is a very slow burn platform. Even if you post really good content on it, you won't see success immediately. You will be gradually seeing improvements in success on YouTube. On average, from all the research I've done with over 25 creators that have over 100,000 subscribers at the moment, on average, it's taken them 3 months to reach 100,000, which is incredible. But on average, for those first 2 months, they were under 10,000 because the views, it was like YouTube, you're building a trust with YouTube. YouTube's like, why should I show you to all these people? Why should I do that? TikTok is instant. You can make a new account, post a TikTok video. Like I post, I made a new account, and I think my first TikTok account, I think it was my 4th video, hit a million views back then. It was very different, a lot easier back then. It's a lot harder now, of course, but TikTok was very quick. YouTube, I posted every day in starting September, and I did not see major success until December. I had some days where I had one day where a video hit like 60,000. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. It's happening. This might be it. I had that one video blow. No, next video, 200. YouTube is a very, very slow burn. It takes a lot of determination, but be patient with it. They're just trying to build trust with you and make sure that they can really push out your things. And that also comes in a different effects. It depends on how old your channel is. If your channel has been around already for a while, it can be different. But if you make a new channel, expect 3 months of posting before you see some really amazing results on that platform. Just be patient, because even if you have those statistics, just trust the process. Look at the comments, look at the feedback. If your viewers like, you're underrated, this is goated, this is amazing, look at that too. I personally don't go off of what the comments are mentioning. I go off of the analytics, because what I tell my students and people I come across is, be honest on your own content, how you feel about it. And if you doubt it, work on that. Because the person that's going to be the most honest with you every single time is going to be your audience. I've seen videos where I've gotten nothing but positive comments the whole video, but then I look at the statistics and I'm like, oh my gosh, they watched like 50% of this video. It was a video of like how I make my videos, but I fast forwarded and added a meme, and that was it. That's important. Analytics will tell you everything you need to know about how it's performing, but stay consistent with it, because YouTube is a slow burn. Facebook is even slower. Oh my god. Facebook takes like 5 to 6 months. Sometimes it can be faster, but Facebook is a very different thing. I'll get into that in a second. So on TikTok, rating 1 to 10 of the monetization. TikTok difficulty is 5 if you're trying to aim for full time on TikTok, depending on your needs and wants and everything. If you study the algorithm, you have everything you need. It's about a 5 out of 10 difficulty, which is pretty difficult. So Instagram, what's the difficulty on that? From a 1 to 10, I'm just going to cut straight to the point. Instagram difficulty for monetization and going full time on it is infinite. It's just not going to happen. I've been monetized on Instagram for a very long time, and I can't even pay 1 month's rent. I'm just going to say up front. Instagram full time, if you're, that's not counting sponsorships, of course, but I'm going off of ad revenue for all these, by the way, or bonus programs that they invite me to. Instagram maximum difficulty. It is a great tool for building an audience. Instagram has the most concurrent audience, in my opinion. To put that in perspective, I have had some videos on TikTok struggle to break even 10,000 views, even though I have accumulated over 2 million on TikTok. On Instagram, I don't have that issue, and they concurrently show up. And I love the comments on Instagram. Man, they're funny over there. They don't hold back. I'll tell you that. They don't hold back in their comments. They see something, they don't hold back. That's all I'm gonna say. Instagram is, but I find it funny where it's either way. So Instagram, infinite difficulty. Facebook, 8 out of 10. Won't go into too many details on that. Actually, 9 out of 10. It's possible, but I do still need to learn more, and I do like data, but I have seen some really great examples. But if I ask anyone, hey, what's your favorite Facebook VR creator? I don't think I get answers. Haven't gotten one yet. So, that should show perspective. But there is a lot of one very important thing. Facebook is very underrated when it comes to video format. Not Facebook Reels, but Facebook videos. Very underrated. There is a lot of space to grow in there if done right, but it's very hard to crack. I highly recommend looking into that, but finding a Facebook mentor, which is someone you may see that has been on Facebook for a while, and they do not have to be a VR creator. They can be in anything, but feel free to ask them questions about it, because they may have a lot of introspectives that can really help you. I highly recommend a mentor for really a lot of these things. If you have a career that you know that has a really strong point and some of your weak points, just ask them questions. When people are passionate about something, it's not really an inconvenience to allow them to talk about it. It's one thing I've learned. They love talking about what they're passionate about. That's why I love talking about the algorithm, because I'm very passionate about it. Half my job and my passion is my content, but the other half is the algorithm. I really love studying it. I really love looking into it, and I love um, using it to better communicate with my audience, because at the end of the day, it's about communicating with the audience and understanding your audience. Um, YouTube, in terms of how difficult it is a 2 out of 10. It is not easy, but in terms of compared to the other platforms, in terms of monetization, all I can say is YouTube is the #1 by miles. It is not even a joke of how much ahead YouTube is in taking care of their creators and making sure that they can keep the lights on. And for team building and running teams, I'll get into that shortly, but YouTube is the place. 100%. If there's any platform you want to focus on, if there's any platform you want to be successful on, and you're like, hey, I'm an adult, I have to pay bills, and I would like to do this as a job, my #1 answer is always going to be YouTube at the moment, because it's been that way for years. YouTube has been absolutely incredible. They have live support you can talk to and stuff. To reach live support on TikTok, I don't even have that. Reach live support on Facebook, I don't have that. Reach live support on Instagram, I also don't have that. Live support on Snapchat, I also don't have that. But YouTube, I do. And I got it within very quickly. Once you get partner on YouTube, you have live support you can talk to. So if you run into any issues, you can talk to live support. Or if you have an issue that live support can't seem to solve, like maybe one of your videos got age restricted and you feel like it wasn't correct, you can also go to Twitter and add the YouTube team, and they'll DM you directly and take it from there. Or your YouTube gets hacked. If your TikTok gets hacked, dang. Your Instagram gets hacked, it's pretty recoverable. Facebook, very rarely, honestly. I haven't seen it happen yet. But YouTube, if it gets hacked, they have so many resources. They hack you, delete all your videos, YouTube has resources, and they will take care of you. Even if you're not monetized, you can reach out to them on Twitter. So they really have a lot of resources, and they take very good care of their creators in some aspects. Sometimes not so much, but in terms of consistency overall that I've seen, YouTube has taken very good care of creators in the retrospect from my own experience. So the next part I do want to get to is not really the algorithm. Let's say you have a project you want to do, and you're like, I just want to do a project. I want to build a team for it, because green screening myself 10, 20 times is just not really in my retrospect. How do you do that? I started team building around a year ago. Before then, my team consisted all the way up until exactly a year to date of 3 members. And now the team is over 70. How did I do it? What did I do? What are some things I learned? What are some things I wish I knew? So we'll talk about different sections. So the first team I do want to talk about is editors. Editors come in at a later time, and it requires quite a bit of training, where I talked to a lot of creators and some of them are like, I don't think anyone can edit like I can. They can. It just takes a lot of training and everything, but it depends on your style editing. If your style editing is like a 70-hour edit, all right, that one's a little different, that one's like probably out of the budget. Even for me, that'd be out of the budget. But let's say it's more simple style and everything. What do you do? Where do you look? I recommend websites like Upwork or YouTuber Discords. There are YouTuber Discords out there that have sections where you can look for YouTube editors. One YouTuber I watch name is Finzar. He edits and teaches editing in a very funny and cool way. And he has a Discord where you can go in and look for editors and everything. So let's say you make it to that point. The question is, what do you do from there? So it depends if the editors are in your budget or anything like that, because editors always do cost money. So let's say you're like, okay, I can't afford an editor, I'll just edit it myself. Let's go to the next part. The next part is body actors. Body actors are essentially extremely important. They are a very important part of the process, and communicating and learning to direct is something that you should study and look into. Look into how people direct movies and take tips from that. Look at how people direct, talk to other people who have done big groups, like maybe they did a director with like 20 people. How did they organize that? How did they get all these people together and have them work in harmony? And it's really good to ask questions like that, because it teaches you to skip some things. And the reason why asking questions is extremely important sometimes is directing in VR chat is going to be different than directing in other aspects of content. And it's really good to talk to creators that you may know about that stuff. And if you don't know any creators, looking up how people direct in movies is also another helpful thing, and seeing what they do. And as a director myself, during like my what if video, I will pull out my camera, for instance, here, and as you can see, I'll have like this so they can see the lines, and I'll explain to them the shot. I'll be like, okay, at this point, we're gonna have you be Goku, and you're gonna power your Kamehameha, and then when you see that Kamehameha power up, that Kamehameha takes about 3 seconds to power up, so you're going to react and try and dodge it within those 3 seconds. And I'll start doing timings, so I'll have them do a test shot where, you know, the Kamehameha, they look at the Kamehameha coming out, they count in their head the 3 seconds, like pre-dodge, because there is latency in VR chat. Another important part about latency is you want to ask people that do your time shots, are they on the same server? Are they both from Eastern servers? Or maybe one's from East and one turns out they're from Europe. If that's the case, it's going to be very different timings, because one person has 125 ping, the other person has like 40. That makes a very big difference. So for a lot of the time stuff, I try to get the buy actors that have very similar time zones, and I make sure that the world instance is also timed to their instance rather than mine. So if they're both on West, I'll take them to the West instance usually. That's something I rarely do nowadays because I don't do too many fight scenes anymore, but that is something that I used to do quite a bit in the past when I was directing. So that's another thing about timings. And it will take multiple takes sometimes, and you should ask them, hey, are you comfortable with falling down? So like, for instance, if they aren't, you should also let them know that, because you want them to fall a certain way, you need to communicate that with them as well, and start to know what body actors are comfortable with what, and all those things. And to get by actors, it's really a lot of how I get mine usually is I either post a YouTube video and say, hey, I'm looking for by actors, feel free to hit up this this Discord or this VR chat group and request off the VR chat group tryouts, and I have them go tryouts where I test their own knowledge with it and see if they have good tracking or if they lose tracking. And it's kind of like an audition and stuff. That's how I did it last time. It was kind of fun. We made like American Idol style and stuff, where we had to get on stage and we asked some very interesting questions, like, hey, how big is your play space? Like, for instance, I would ask, that's really important too, because if you want a by actor in a shot to go over to here, a lot of people cannot do that. So you should also remember, as a director, you should remember each by actor's play space. If they have a play space that's like this, where they can only take 2 steps, you also want to go by steps, because going by steps rather than feet help. Because if they're in a giant avatar, it's a little bit harder to go by feet and visualize that. But if you go by steps, like, hey, how many steps is your room? It's 2 steps. So now I know that they have 2 steps, but they have the capabilities to fall down for certain shots or certain things. They have abilities to dodge. Some don't. Some have half bodies. Some have desktop. It depends. If it's a desktop by actor, usually it's for like green screens, like if we need a green screen shot. Another important thing is, you have a green screen, you could like have someone have the green screen avatar behind you, and that allows you to green screen you picking up items in the world, so you can green screen that rather than having to rotoscope all of that out. So that's another important thing when it comes to recording, is you can have a green screen avatar behind you and you can pick up items. So if you need a shot where like you take an item that's in the world and you want to utilize that item, you can use a green screen for that, and it shows up in the camera. It's really helpful. So with team building on by actors, it's a lot of communication and really knowing their limits and what they're comfortable with. Because the last thing you want to do is ask someone to take a fall and they're hesitating, they're doubting it, and they're not comfortable with it. Most likely they won't show up for the next recording and stuff. So make sure to know people's boundaries with by acting, and just sometimes ask them. Sometimes they'll ask you. They'll be like, hey, I would like to try this out. Or you could actively try to recruit or inform people, be like, hey, yeah, I'm just looking for by actors right now and stuff. And if they say they're interested, then give them more details. Another thing is, like, some of them have like friends that they'll bring along, and it makes it even more fun for them, because they know their friend and everything. And we've had that happen a lot with some of the recordings. I do like to schedule things out as well. So if I am meeting some people for a recording, I try to schedule it out. But I also make sure I practice my directing and I have the video planned out. I have all the avatars, I have all the worlds we're going to go to. I also have a time limit. So at the moment, my maximum photo shoot, I'm starting to cut off around the 3 hour mark and everything because I have a Quest Pro and that thing dies quick with face tracking. Oh my goodness. So I have like a time limit, but I do ask them like, hey, it's gonna last about this long. This is roughly how long we have. Another thing here is I'm probably gonna go through about maybe 13 more minutes of information as well. So when it comes to building bioactors, it's really important to communicate with them about it and ask them, hey, how'd you feel about the recording and stuff? Another thing that I found that's really interesting is when I'm recording a video, there are times where like it happens a few times, but there's segments where nobody laughs, and I'll be like, I should probably rewrite that because no one laughed during the acting for it. Maybe it just wasn't as funny as I thought it was. And every time I've posted that video, I can tell you that specific segment has turned out to be true. So, I guess they could be like your first audience as well. But also, they do have good ideas that they pitch in. Like some of my actors, when I tell them, hey, can you just take a fall and fall this way? They'll just, instead of just falling this way, they'll do extra. They'll just spin around, like fall down like that. And it will look really funny. I just didn't expect it. Or they'll do something completely different. And that really adds a lot to it because if you green screen yourself, the body language is really hard to change a lot, and I do struggle with that personally. It'll just look like the same body language in my stuff, but their body language is different. Their ideas are different, and the things they come up with are a lot cooler. So you have really cool feedback live. Another thing I want to talk about is voice actors, and I'll get over this super quick as well. Voice actors, if you need voice actors for reveals, usually what I do is I construct the audios before the recording. Because I like to have it more organized like that. Some people do improv videos, but I focus on pre-made audio videos. So I have a script and everything, and also get into the scripts as well. Sometimes I do use the voice actors, and to find them, I just posted a video on YouTube. I was like, hey, look, I need voice actors, and some of the voice actors that came through, it was incredible, their talents and everything. I even got in contact with the head voice actor. Shout out to Harkin, the VRChat voice acting community that he runs and everything. He's been amazing help. Oh my gosh. Like I said, having a mentor that specialized in something that you may not helps a lot, because at the end of the day, a lot of people on my team see me as like the glue, and I'm the glue that keeps things together. But that glue can be weaker in certain parts if I lack knowledge. Like, let's say I don't know about filming as well, and I didn't know that I could just use camera animations to get panning shots or other things like that. The video may not turn out as well because I lack that knowledge to expand on that, and it can affect the process. So it's good to be informed and get yourself involved in the parts that you want to build. So if you want to build an editing part, well, make sure you have editing experience. Most people usually do. If you want it, the by acting part, people most likely do. But when it comes to the voice acting part, make sure you learn about those things and get yourself informed so you can understand the process very well. And usually the fastest way to do that, I'm telling you, a mentor. Having a mentor takes a lot to find them. But when you do, it helps so much. It really cuts out the process, because they can tell you all of their struggles, all of their fails that they had, and all of their successes. But listen to the struggle more, because the issue with a lot of stories is people always look at what is presented, not what was. It's easy to look at what someone has, but it's harder to go down the hall and look at what they used to have and when they were at where maybe you're currently at or where you are. And having a mentor and focusing on the struggles that they had, or the do's and don'ts, makes the process a whole lot easier. I thought I knew the Facebook algorithm really well after studying it, and I struggled so much. I hired someone who has brought in 2 billion views for other creators on Facebook and everything, and even he couldn't crack it because they just were not promoting virtual reality content at the time, or really gaming content in retrospective. A lot of his clients were people who not all, actually all of his clients were people who posted real life content, and that actually turns out that translates differently on Facebook, and it has to be very specifically packaged. So I have about 8 more minutes here that I'm going to go through, but I finally, when he tried, I was very excited. I was like, yes, finally we're going to get this through. And it went well, but not as well as it needed to. And I asked him, I was like, do you have a mentor that like taught you this? Because he had someone he kept calling, and he would always talk to this person for help. And this guy was very successful. Like bringing 2 billion views to your client, that's phenomenal. But I asked him, I was like, hey, can I talk to your mentor and stuff? I just want to see like anything. And he was like, yeah, sure. So he put me in contact with his mentor, and oh my gosh, this guy lived and breathed the algorithm. He told me exactly what to do and how to do it and why that other person wasn't performing those actions, because it was a much more difficult path. And once he taught me that, I stopped working with the other person completely mutually. We're chill, and everything. It wasn't anything like that. It was more of like, I was like, okay, this requires a lot of time and steps, and it requires a lot of energy that isn't actually technically worth the other guy's time, because he has a lot more other clients to focus on. And I completely understand that process. So I took it in my own hands. He taught me so much. And without him, I would not even be close to where I am on Facebook. And it's not that I blew up on Facebook. I'm just happy to see concurrent on Facebook and amazing things. And to explain how Facebook is underrated, one of my students posted a long form video on Facebook. It was 2 minutes long, and he hit 1 million views in that long form video. Posted the same video on YouTube, hit 17K. Posted the same video on TikTok, hit 800K. Facebook has untapped potential and is slept on. I'm still working on breaking it down. I hope by the next time I come on stage, I can give way more information about it. But now I can. Okay, let me explain why I focus on Facebook so hard. I just wanted to say to people I'm a Facebook content creator. I just wanted to be a bit, because no one ever says it, and I was like, I just wanted to say it. That's literally, I kid you not, that's literally the reason why I push so hard on Facebook, just to do a bit. And I'm still gonna continue to do that. Oh my gosh, especially if I can be like, yeah, I'm a full-time Facebook creator. I know a lot of people have different retrospects on different platforms in their opinion. For instance, I don't talk about Twitter because I just don't study Twitter algorithm. For my own reasons, I just don't study it. I don't really post it. I'm not active on it. So I don't really give any information on Twitter. In terms of Snapchat, I haven't studied the algorithm on Snapchat for about like 1.5 years, but I do like information on it at the moment. So that's kind of why I skipped over Snapchat for today. So in short, when it comes to team building, a lot of it is also researching how to be a good leader, because you have to be willing to take a lot of constructive criticism, not from the peers, but you have to within yourself. You have to realize mistakes out in the open that you may make before it happens. Let's say you did a recording session, you forgot to check someone's boundaries about certain things, and you asked them to do something like, hey, I need you to take this hit, and then turns out that was one of the things they communicated with you. You simply forgot. But then later on, you realize then you need to check in with that person and say, hey, I'm sorry about this particular thing right here. And just doing that, going the extra mile, it's like, best way to say it is, it's similar like the work I did when I worked in like fast food and stuff, in customer service, where I'm just checking on, I was a waiter, and I was constantly checking on people, make sure they had everything they need. I would ask them I would over ask questions and stuff. And that experience did help me with these things. So I like to check in on people if something happens. For instance, I realized I have 70 members. So I told everyone, I was like, hey, if anything happens, if there's any situation that occurs, like let's say you're hanging out with someone in the team and they make you uncomfortable, what happens then? I told them, like, hey, you can come to me. However, we have an HR department. The HR department I completely separate them on purpose to make sure they aren't emotionally connected with anyone on the team. So they have a very neutral standpoint. So they have an anonymous person they can reach out to say the issue to. And this person is very well equipped, better equipped than I am, because I am a content creator. but I'm not a therapist. I'm not a expert at certain other subjects, but I put someone in place that actually is, and that helps a lot. That provides a lot. But um, that's just me going the extra mile from everything. So has that happened? No, I haven't had any issues. The team has been absolutely incredible. We have over 70 members now, and we're still expanding the team. And hopefully, I'm working on expanding in like 2 months again. I'm really excited about it. But I'm going to close this out within about 3 minutes. So, building a team is a lot of self criticism. You have to really be organized and make sure that things are in place. Scheduling things is great, but just bringing things up at the last minute or jumping world to world and just be like, hey, get one with the video, get one with the video, get one with the video. Not really a way to do it, because some people may not have time. They may not have an hour out of nowhere on their hands. So scheduling it, communication is number one. Communicate with your team. If you plan some changes and you did enough research and you're like, okay, I'll give you one example. I used to record the what if video, so it would take 3 hours. My editor came to me and said, hey, I am going through 3 hours of footage. That's a lot of footage to go through. Just to sift, that's a lot of footage to sift through for a 1 to 2 minute video. And I was like, okay, here's what I'll do. I'm just gonna hit record when we're ready for the shot. And I cut the footage down from 3 hours to 20 minutes. And now the editing time for that has tremendously increased. That's why it's important to also understand editing your own style. So if you record something and you do have an editor, make sure you have experience editing that recording, because if you do and you edit that 3 hour footage, you're going to realize, oh man, I need to change this. So by getting your hands in certain situations before you hand it out to someone else will also give you experience to communicate any problems that may be faced as well. I'll give you another error that I have made. There are times I'll send a script to my voice actors and they'll voice act over it, but maybe like one line was missed. And I missed the line in review and I sent to my editor. And then they respond with, hey, this line is missing. My response to that is, hey, if that line's missing, that's on me. I will accompany you extra. That is a me problem, not a you problem. And I apologize to them. And then I correct the issue by going back to get the line. And I make sure it doesn't happen again. Communication like that is very well managed, because you put yourself in their shoes and you're like, hey, what if this happened to me? You have to do that a lot when you're being a leader of these groups. And you have to make sure that you study on how to be a good leader and how to communicate very, very well with your team. So when it comes to organizing things and everything, it is difficult to build a team. I have rapidly expanded the team as well. So having a team has made a lot of things easier. I don't have to focus on editing anymore. So that burnout section doesn't happen. I don't have to focus on green screening 20 of myself so my editors don't lose their minds. So that section's handled. I have voice actors, so I have to voice act myself. So the quality has been increased. It makes things a lot easier. And there are some subjects that I'm going to focus on more in my own work, like voice acting. But that being said, my time is up here. I just want to give some closing remarks, but I do want to say a big thank you to my team. I wouldn't be where I am today in terms of being this consistent without them, unless I wanted to work like all the hours of the day. So I do want to say a big thank you to all of them. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to say a big thank you to my audience. I would never even be where I am today without that. I would be nothing without my audience. And that is why I love to make them smile. I love to make them happy. It makes me happy to make the people happy who put me in this position, because it's been a dream of mine since I was the age of 17 to just do anything with gaming. And it's been an amazing opportunity. And I want to thank everyone who has put me in this position of opportunity. And I do hope in the future to continue to help others out with said opportunities as well. All right, that being said, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say.